It is not a conservative position, my friends. My politics have not changed, but I am reacting to politics that have. And this is yet another example of how the woke invert the very thing that used to make liberals liberals. Olympic surfing exposes whitewashed native Hawaiian roots. Yeah, the Olympics added surfing this year. Good. Surfers deserve to be recognized as athletes. I'm sorry. What I meant to say is, no, that's cultural appropriation. The AP says that for Hawaiians, probably all two of them, including surfing in the Olympics is an extension of the racial indignity seared into the history of the game and their homeland when white outsiders took over their spiritual art form. Or just people having fun in the ocean.
It's not just Hollywood anymore. The culture wars have stormed the stadiums, the locker rooms, and even the Olympics. Athletes who refuse to fall in line with the latest ideological trend suddenly find themselves under a microscope. Careers questioned, motives attacked, reputations dragged. But when Bill Maher stepped into the conversation, he didn't tiptoe around it. He went straight at it. Sharp, unapologetic, and unfiltered. And what he said instantly lit up the room. This wasn't just another panel discussion, it was a moment. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe. Because what you're about to hear cuts straight through the noise.
The director of the opening ceremony was fired hours before the event because they found out there was a Holocaust joke in a comedy routine he did decades ago. Well, you know, context is everything. Obviously, it didn't strike people as beyond the pale at the time. Young people have to stop flattering themselves that they're Nostradamus and would have foreseen, had they been around then, everything that's unacceptable now. And for further context, Mel Brooks wrote one of the most successful musicals of all time around the song Springtime for Hitler.
The outrage machine doesn't sleep. It doesn't forgive. And it definitely doesn't forget. It waits. It scrolls. It screenshots. Years-old tweets, buried interviews, deleted posts. Nothing is ever truly gone. Context? Irrelevant. Timing? Doesn't matter. All it takes is one sentence that can be reframed, twisted, and blasted across headlines. Suddenly, a lifetime of achievement gets reduced to a single frozen mistake. That's exactly what happened to this Olympic Games director. The hunt was on, and eventually, they found what they were looking for. The second they did, it was everywhere.
Do we allow the people who just want to always win? Days before that firing, the opening ceremony's musical director was also forced out because someone dug up an interview with him from 1994 where he admitted to bullying classmates as a child. As a child. Remember when your teacher used to try and scare you by saying, this is going to go on your permanent record? Yeah. No longer an empty threat now.
And jokes become evidence. Immature moments become proof. Growth doesn't count. Apologies don't matter. It's about constructing a present-day storyline that fits the outrage of the moment. The irony? The loudest critics often act as if they were born flawless. As if they never misspoke, never evolved, never changed. Perfection for thee, but never for me.
And the creative director of the entire shebang, of the whole Olympics, got shit-canned because he once made a fat joke in a private conversation. This is called a purge. It's a mentality that belongs in Stalin's Russia. How bad does this atmosphere we are living in have to get before the people who say cancel culture is overblown admit that is in fact an insanity that is swallowing up the world? What a ridiculous crowd. I'm back, not the audience. I'm back. There's the... And that is not a conservative position, my friends. My politics have not changed, but I am reacting to politics that have. And this is yet another example of how the woke invert the very thing that used to make liberals liberals. Snitches and that's not being liberal.
On his show, Bill Maher didn't sugarcoat it. He described this behavior as modern-day tattling on steroids. Not justice, not accountability, but power. He argued that this isn't the liberalism many Americans grew up understanding. Traditional liberal values were about debate, tolerance, and the freedom to evolve. But what we're seeing now, he says, is something different. Less discussion, more compliance, less curiosity, more control. And when conversation gets replaced by fear, something bigger is lost.
Associated Press is a real news organization, yeah? So why am I reading this headline? Olympic surfing exposes whitewashed native Hawaiian roots. Yeah, the Olympics added surfing this year. Good. Surfers deserve to be recognized as athletes. I'm sorry. What I meant to say is, no, that's cultural appropriation. The AP says that for Hawaiians, probably all two of them, including surfing in the Olympics is an extension of the racial indignity seared into the history of the game and their homeland when white outsiders took over their spiritual art form. Or just people having fun in the ocean.
Then came the headline from Associated Press. Olympic surfing exposes whitewashed native Hawaiian roots. Surfing, now an Olympic sport at the Olympic Games, suddenly reframed as cultural controversy. Maher mocked the idea that enjoying waves in the ocean must be dissected into a political statement. He joked that surfers finally getting recognition as athletes somehow became an accusation. What used to be people having fun at the beach was now presented as historical injustice wrapped in academic language. Strip away the buzzwords, he argued, and what's left? Not much.
I must say, of all the violations of the woke penal code, cultural appropriation just might be the dumbest of all. First of all, there are 25,000 islands in the Pacific. How do we know a Hawaiian was the first to stand on a board in the water? It seems like something anyone in any ocean would eventually get around to. And if you're a surfer, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, or in between. You all taste the same to sharks.
Maher questioned the logic behind treating cultural appreciation like a crime. In today's world, cultures constantly blend through music, food, fashion, technology. That exchange has fueled human progress for centuries. People adopt what they admire. They experiment. They remix. That isn't theft, it's curiosity. It's connection. According to Maher, labeling every crossover as appropriation freezes culture in place instead of letting it breathe.
Let's say a Hawaiian did invent surfing. Should he or she have kept it to themselves? Most of human history is a horror story, but the good parts are about different groups coming together and sharing. It's sort of the whole point of the Olympics, which itself comes from Greece, where wrestling was invented as a way for completely heterosexual men to get to know each other. Badminton has roots in India. Tennis comes from France. Skiing from Scandinavia and Taekwondo from Korea. Judo was appropriated from the Far East and skateboarding from the Far Out.
He made another point. No invention or tradition has ever stayed confined to one group forever. Ideas travel. Art spreads. Innovation builds on innovation. Technology erased the old walls between nations long ago. Today, cultures interact in real time. That doesn't erase origins, it expands them. Shared experiences don't dilute humanity. They connect it. A global village thrives on exchange, not isolation.
What is this new rule that the first thing to do, that the first to do something, are the only ones who get to have it? Jewish people spend most of their history wandering, but when they see other people milling around, they don't say, "Can you not? That's sort of our thing." You know, change is not synonymous with progress. Newer doesn't automatically mean better. This new idea that each culture must remain in its own separate silo is not better. It's not progress.
Maher argued that declaring cultural lines off limits ignores history itself. Every advancement, from science to music to cuisine, exists because someone borrowed, learned, adapted, and improved. Fear of crossing boundaries doesn't protect culture. It limits it. Instead of encouraging exploration, it creates hesitation. And hesitation leads to division. Societies grow when ideas are tested, not when they're locked behind invisible fences.
In fact, it's messing with one of the few ideas that still really does make this melting pot called America great. Not everything is about oppression. Stealing natural resources from indigenous peoples, yes, of course, that is exploitation. but I swear not one Beach Boys song resulted in any Hawaiian having less waves to surf. Not one African record buyer stopped purchasing local music after Paul Simon made Graceland. But lots of white buyers in America were turned on to and then bought African music. And today, Korean boy bands make Western-style music. You don't get to number one singing this.
He pointed out the double standard. Korean artists performing Western pop? Celebrated. Global superstars. No one questions their legitimacy. But reverse the direction, and suddenly it's controversial. That inconsistency reveals the flaw. If cultural exchange is acceptable one way, it should be acceptable both ways. Otherwise, it's not about respect, it's about selective rules.
That's the great thing about cultural mixing. It makes things better for everyone. BTS can be a hit in America, and I can get kimchi on a taco. Isn't that better than everyone walling itself off from outsiders? I thought walls were supposed to be bad. But we're living now in a world where straight actors are told they can't play gay roles, and white novelists aren't allowed to imagine what it would be like to be a Mexican immigrant, even though trying to inhabit the life of someone else is almost the very definition of empathy, the bedrock of liberalism. And by the way, if anyone deserves to bitch about stealing in the Olympics, it's the horses in the equestrian events who have to watch humans get medals for everything they do.
Maher even joked that if we're policing the Olympics, maybe we should look at equestrian events, where horses do the work and humans get the medals. Humor aside, his deeper point hit home. In a world where actors are told what roles they can't play and writers are warned which stories they shouldn't imagine, empathy itself risks becoming restricted. And empathy, imagining someone else's experience, is foundational to a free society. In the end, Maher's argument cuts through the chaos. A movement that claims to promote inclusion can't survive by policing curiosity. Cultural exchange built modern civilization. Debate strengthens democracy. Growth requires the freedom to stumble and improve. Unity doesn't come from enforced silence. It comes from shared understanding. Whether you agree or disagree, the conversation matters. And that's what makes moments like this impossible to ignore. If you made it this far, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. I'll see you in the next one.